Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and I want to welcome Todd Evans from Rush Fans and the Contrarians, and Reed Little from the Contrarians to the show. And tonight we're looking at The Cure, our top two tracks from Disintegration, Wish, and Wild Mood Swings. Right after this.
Congratulations, The Cure, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees 2019. Are you as excited as I am?
By the sounds of it, no.
Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and I want to welcome Todd Evans and Reed Little here tonight. And tonight, we've got yet another episode in our Cure series. Tonight, we're looking at The Cure's Disintegration, Wish, and Wild Mood Swings. First record we're looking at tonight is Disintegration. And what we're going to do is pick our top two favorite tracks from each of these records. So Disintegration came out in May of 1989. It was considered the band's first commercial peak, and it charted at number 3 in the UK and at number 12 in the US. You know, the funny thing about this record is, as Robert Smith was nearing 30 years old, he felt a lot of pressure about coming up with a record, because most people, by the time they hit 30, they've already had their Sgt. Pepper, they've already had the Revolver, they've already had their Pet Sounds, and he still hadn't had that yet. So he felt that this album was going to be his masterpiece. And I must say, yes, it was. But what we're going to do tonight is go around and pick our top two favorite tracks. So I'm just going to go clockwise. I'm going to start out with Reed and then Todd, and then we'll come to me. And then we'll go on to the next record and we'll hit Wish. Reed Little, I'm handing it over to you.
Well, thanks, Grant. Glad to be here. Looking forward to doing the Cure chat for a while. So recently I've had the occasion to go with some in-depth listening to the entire Cure catalog. And I will say that for many years, Disintegration was my favorite Cure album. Now, whether it was truly Robert Smith's masterpiece, maybe he still had better things to come. I think musicians and rock stars, especially apparently post-punk British musicians and rock stars, are very strange people. Talking about a guy who had 6 or 7, depending on how you count Japanese Whispers, albums under his belt by this point. That's like saying, you know what, everything else I did sucked. And that includes multiple albums where he was actively sabotaging his own career. So funny that he comes in now and says, I've got to get a masterpiece. Maybe what he should have gotten was therapy. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, maybe you might have something there. Yeah.
That's a whole other show. I think
that's a whole other show. Does Robert need therapy? That's an episode. It'll be in our series.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the man does. But nonetheless, there are some fantastic songs on Disintegration. You want me to do one or both?
Do both.
Okay. Well, my first favorite, and this has actually been my favorite track off of the album since I first heard it, is Lullaby. I love how strange the song is. I love the string arrangements and how open and airy the music is. I love Robert Smith's whispered delivery of the lines. One of the things that is absolutely masterful about The Cure, and I think one of the things that elevates them above other goth rock acts, and I don't care if Robert Smith thinks he's goth or not, if you can watch the video for Lullaby and say, no, I don't think that guy's goth, then that term means nothing to anybody. He's the most goth there is. But other goth bands are very monodimensional. They don't match the music to the mood the way that Robert Smith does. Now, I mean, clearly, I know people are going to have their favorite goth acts. There are a lot of goth acts I really like. Big fan of Sisters of Mercy, for instance. But I love his whispered delivery. I love the whole storyline of, he's dreaming about, there's this guy in the corner of his room, and now he understands he's going to eat him. the idea that it came from his father torturing him when he was a kid, telling him, if you don't go to bed, the Spider-Man's going to eat you. All of that is just fantastic. And what I really love is that on this album, which is a pretty dark album, this song about a kid being eaten by a nightmare spider is actually a moment of lightness and levity on the album. It's a mood elevator. And I'm not really sure how that works, but it's definitely the case. So that's number one, is Lullaby. Now, number two, there are a lot that I kind of round robin through. I love Love Song because I love a good pop tune, and it's one of the best that Smith wrote. I love Fascination Street because it has that wonderful kind of post-punk tribal beat to it. But today, I am going with what should have been the closing track on the album, and that's Disintegration. What a wonderful song. I love that this song, now the whole album has been kind of dark, but Disintegration comes in and it's a sucker punch. He's talking about how he's been screwed over by the music industry and how they're constantly churning through their old stars and looking for younger, naive musicians to take over, and, talking like maybe he's going to commit suicide, or maybe he's just going to blow up his career, or maybe his career is going to blow up on its own. And as he's going into these incredibly dark lyrics, and I love that line, I never said I'd be with you to the end. And that's a bit of a paraphrase, but it's the perfect summation of the album, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as he gets darker and darker and more aggressive, the music swells, and they double track his voice, and they bring in choruses of vocals. And this isn't really something that's typical of a lot of Cure songs. So it really adds this beautiful choir to this incredibly dark song. And the only thing that takes away from it is the fact that it's not the last track on the album. The album should have ended right there with the last note of Disintegration, and instead he throws on 2 more tracks.
Well, those were like bonus tracks, so
One of them
probably
is.
why. Well,
Yeah,
one of them.
Homesick is a bonus.
Yeah, but Untitled was not. Actually, I thought Untitled was the bonus and Homesick was not.
There's
Maybe
little
just
asterisks by Homesick on the CD.
Okay. Nonetheless, that should have been the last note of music on Disintegration. That's all I'm saying.
I
Okay.
agree.
There you go. I'm going to agree too, so we're all in agreement. Thank you, Reed. That's amazing. Let's throw it over to Todd and get his thoughts on this. Todd, what are your 2 favorite? What is the 2 greatest tracks on this CD?
Okay. So just to add to what we were just talking about, they had, I don't know, 4 CD singles from this album that had, 3 or 4 extra tracks on them. That Homesick and Untitled could have landed on those. And Disintegration could have been last. So I agree. I am gonna go. I might surprise you guys with my 2 choices. There are a lot of songs on this album that are the kinds of Cure songs Todd likes. Really dark and slow with lots of layers of keyboards and stuff like that. And obviously, I love all those songs. But I am going to pick, the first one I'm going to pick is Pictures of You.
Oh yeah.
Because I think Pictures of You is a spectacular single. I didn't expect anything like it when I first heard it, and I felt like I had never heard anything like it before. His guitar playing, I really don't know exactly what to say about it, but there's something about his guitar playing in that song that is really unique, like to not only to the Cure, but just to guitar playing on a pop song in general.
Well, it's 6-string bass.
Yeah, and yeah. Well, whatever it is, it's really different, and the way all of the little sound effects and the little jingly bells and all that stuff, it's just really well crafted and really beautiful, and a very simple, very sweet lyrical content that's very easy to relate to. And so I am choosing Pictures of You first. My second choice is going to be another really obvious choice, Fascination Street. And I don't know if anybody remembers this, but Fascination Street came out first. It came out before, it was pre-release single. it was a cassette single and a CD single, and it may have even 1989. It may have even been a 12-inch. I don't know, but I heard it first, and it absolutely blew me away. There's something about that bass line and the way the drums are played that I don't know if erotic is the right word, but there's something about it that kind of makes me feel funny inside. And I just think it's very, very intriguing and very, I'm just going to say erotic because I can't think of another word.
Sensual.
It makes, what's that?
Sensual.
Yes. It makes you want to get dressed up and go to the club, and whatever happens. And that's how old I was back then in 1989. I was 26. So
Just a baby.
yeah. So I love Fascination Street. It's a great song to turn up loud. I remember hearing it in nightclubs, and it just being everyone loving it, and it just has such great energy. And so those are the two I'm going to pick. It's hard not to pick Disintegration. It's hard not to pick Lullaby, and it's really hard not to pick Plain Song and Close Down for me. But I didn't.
Well, this, Todd, is where I'm going to pick up the slack.
Okay.
Because I'm starting off with Plain Song. I think it sets the tone for the whole record. There's so much synthesizers and keyboards on this opening track. Droning guitar. It's, like I said, it sets the mood for the whole record. What can I say? I mean, even Robert Smith thought this was like the perfect opener. But I think the melody, the lyrical content, I think it's, oh my God, it's not my favorite song on the record, but I think it's just absolutely majestic and beautiful and dark. Like I said, it sets the, it sets the mood for the album. The other song I'm going to go with is something you already picked. This was voted number 238 on Rolling Stone's The 500 Greatest Songs of All Time list, and that's Pictures of You. And that is the first track that I heard on this record. And once I heard it, but I'd already been a Cure fan since '85. Head on the Door is that was my introduction to the Cure. That was my gateway drug. By the time I got to Pictures of You and Disintegration, I was totally, I was just Cure crazy. I heard Pictures of You, and it was like one of those moments where I've described, where the skies open, the water parts. It's one of those beautiful moments. It has to be my all-time favorite Cure song. The Tim Pope video where he's using like the Super 8 cameras and they're shooting the video. I think that's what I saw first, and I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Because at that time, the girlfriend I had, we were shooting a lot of Super 8 stuff.
Oh
yeah.
I used to do that too.
Did you used to do that? I
Yeah.
had what did I have? I had a Bolex Super 8, or she did, and we would shoot that all the time. So when this came on, it was like, holy crap, that's Super 8. Very creative, beautiful melody, beautiful lyrical content, just a wonderful song. So that would be my second one. There you go. What more can I say?
As long as we're talking about videos, I will say the video for Love Song may be the most disappointing, pointless Cure video I've ever seen. It's just them sitting in a cave miming along to this song. And you're like going, is this an episode of Fraggle Rock? What the hell is going on? How does this relate to this music in any way?
Well, and the other videos were so good. The videos
Exactly.
I think it's great. He's sitting there. He's longing for his wife. He's hugging a rock. What more would you want? Am I missing something?
I guess that's the metaphor. He's hugging the rock.
Well, there's something. He could be on a desert island. We don't really know what's happening.
We know he's in a cave.
He's in a cave.
And he doesn't move. He just sits in a cave and he sings about the life he loves so much.
Right. Well, that's what I do. I mean, same thing. So
that's why I gave up spelunking.
There you go. All right. Well, gentlemen, that's Disintegration. We're going to head over to Wish. which was the 9th studio album, released April 1992 on Fiction Records in the UK and Elektra in the United States. This was actually the most successful album in the band's career. In fact, here, where is it? Hold on. We just had a 30th anniversary edition that just came out.
I don't
Todd,
have mine yet.
Todd, you don't have yours
Rhino,
yet.
I think Rhino gave me a bogus tracking number because it says it hasn't shipped yet, but
Yeah,
I'm
Rhino's
expecting it
like
any
that.
day.
Well, look, I haven't even opened this yet. I've got so much crap that I haven't even got to it. But anyway, that just came out. So this is the final album that featured Boris Williams and Paul Thompson for 16 years. This is the first album featuring Perry Bamonte, who was initially working as a roadie for the band. So anyway, like I said, this sold more than any Cure record. So we're going to throw it over to Reed and get his top 2 favorite tracks. Reed,
Okay.
take it away.
So I know Todd is on record as saying that Wish is his favorite Cure album. That's
the rumor.
It's not my favorite Cure album.
Not
For
my
me,
favorite either.
Wish is what Martin Popoff refers to as a peaks and valleys album. There are songs on it that I like better than any song on Disintegration, but there are also songs that I'm kind of just lukewarm on. I don't think it's as consistently brilliant as Disintegration, but it can be just as meandering. My dissatisfaction at this point in life with Disintegration is that all of the songs take so long to get going. Robert Smith needs a running start to get wherever he's headed with his tracks. So my 2 favorite songs, and they're right next to each other on the album, are Apart and From the Edge of the Deep Green Sea. Mm-hmm. So I will say, I think that Wish is the Cure's best guitar album. They were always a band that's more about parts than they are feature performances, you know, a riff or a solo like you'd have in a hard rock or heavy metal band. They're much more of a parts construction like you get from a lot of other post-punk bands. And there are a ton of guitar parts on both of these songs, but they have very different moods. I love how mellow Apart is. I love the fact that after Disintegration now, Robert Smith actually dials it back a little bit and he's emoting more and kind of shouting a little bit. Like, he doesn't really shout on Disintegration, but he emotes more on Wish. And I think he puts a lot of emotion into Apart. But I mostly love it for the guitar. I think the music of it is beautifully orchestrated. And then you move on to From the Edge of the Deep Green Sea. I always have to look up that title. It's not as it's not as mellow. It's much more aggressive. It has a driving beat to it, and it still has tons and tons of guitar layers. Both of them have solos. You have to kind of listen for the solo in From the Edge of the Deep Green Sea. Doggone it, I'm gonna remember that song title at some point. It has a solo in it. It's not a really flashy solo, and because the music is so hypnotic and overwhelming, it's actually easy to lose it. But I love both of the tracks. I love the sequencing that goes from one into the other, and I love the fact that they're both melancholy, but in slightly different ways. And you know, nobody did melancholy better than Robert Smith.
Nope.
So those are my favorite 2, Apart and From the Edge of the Deep Green Sea.
I think those are 2 great choices. Do you think that maybe we're more guitar driven because of Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and we've headed into that whole grunge era? Do you think that might have something to do with that whole guitar based phenomena?
I have to believe that his touring, his extensive touring of the US and listening to US radio and exposure to US music had a big effect on his writing. And I think you definitely see that more on Blood Flowers and The Cure and 413 Dream, where there's a lot more US influences on them. Whereas in this album, he still picks in a lot of those old Susie and the Banshees, Berlin era David Bowie influences that he carried through his career. But even though it has more guitar, it's still very British. There's no Seattle on this album. Unlike Bloodflowers, Bloodflowers has a lot of American style guitar on it.
Mm-hmm.
They just as part of their campaign for the re-release of the special edition of Wish, the Cure's social media has released a couple of really short interview clips that were done at the time of release. And one of them is Robert Smith saying something very much like, "There's more guitar on this one." I may be butchering that, but he says something right along those lines, and it's very short. It's just like 7 or 8 seconds, and that's what he says. And so yeah, he thought so too. He did it on purpose, apparently.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to be right once in a while.
Yeah.
Oh, Reed, you're right all the time. All right, Todd Evans, and thank you, Reed. That was awesome. Todd Evans, what's your 2 favorite tracks off this record?
Okay, well,
which is going to be hard for you since you love
it
this.
Was very hard. The first one I'm going to pick is really obvious, and it was very difficult to not pick From the Edge of the Deep Green Sea, which I also love. It was very difficult for me to not pick Trust, and it was very difficult for me to not pick End, because I think End is spectacular and super depressing and sad. But which is a good thing when you're talking about the Cure. But my first choice is going to be Friday I'm in Love, and I picked it because I think it's probably the perfect pop song. And when I was listening to this album trying to pick songs, I just couldn't deny just how good of a song it is. And I think it's a fantastic recording. I love everything about the arrangement. I just love everything about it. And I think that for somebody like Robert Smith to deliver a lyric like that, it's super playful, and I think he does just a great job with it. And I just love it. My second choice is A Letter to Elise. Now, I have said before, I'm pretty sure, in at least 2 other shows, that I think A Letter to Elise has the best bridge of all time. I'm kind of a bridge freak. And so I've said that before, but I've also said that Rush Marathon has the best bridge of all time. I've also said that Genesis No Reply at All has the best bridge of all time. So I'm kind of all over the place on that. But
they can all have the best bridge, Todd.
They can all.
they're
Equal
tied for
opportunity
number
employer
1
here, so we're all right.
But I'm going to pick A Letter to Elise for the way that it builds, and the way that it builds through that bridge, and the guitar solo that's in it into the string arrangement. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. It I routinely brings tears when I listen to it, and I just think that it's beautiful. And so that's why I picked A Letter to Elise.
I'm picking a song that I think, well, you didn't pick this one, Todd, but Reed did. I'm picking Apart, which I think is one of the best songs on Wish.
I love that song.
Well, you love the whole thing.
Right.
So, of course you do. The song's Middle Eastern tendency. I think it's just kind of, hypnotic. I think it brings you into the song. I think the lyrical content, how did we get this far apart? We used to be so close together. How did we get this far apart? I thought this love would last forever. This song could have been on Disintegration, I think. Would have fit on here just perfectly. It's simple, it's simply powerful, and the communication between 2 people, the way they just drift apart. I don't know. There's something about this whole song is just mesmerizing to me. The other song I have to say, which would be my favorite, would be the song. Well, I'm kind of torn. There are, like Todd, I really like this album, but I don't look at this album as so much as an album like Disintegration. Disintegration, all the tracks I think fit perfectly together. Here we seem like we have a lot more. We'll have like a Disintegration kind of track, and then we'll have like a Love Cats kind of track. That's the way I look at it. It's more of a collection of songs, which is fine. It's fine. But I think I'm going to go with, Oh, the lead single that came off this album, which was High. I think this record, I think it reached #1 on the US modern rock chart. And I think it got to #6, maybe in the UK or the Irish singles chart. I think it got to #8 on the UK chart. But what can I say? It's been touted as one of the best Cure songs ever written. I don't know. It's catchy. It's intoxicating for me. I think it's just the greatest song, one of the greatest songs of this era. It's just a great Cure pop song. I don't know. What more can I say? I love it. I give that song 5 stars. But yeah.
Yeah,
This is
High also has those jingly bells like
the jingly bells. I like jingly
Pictures of
bells.
You.
The chimes, those are chimes. Yes.
But
Well, the little the little thing
Yeah.
that sits by the drum kit that you go, yeah.
Yeah, just
I should really know the name of that.
yeah,
But
chimes. That is what they're called.
the only thing I want to ask is that this was the
I always think of
last
orchestra chimes when I
Oh.
hear that.
It could be on that. This is
And I
the
could be wrong.
This is the last album that David M. Allen produced along with Robert Smith. And I always looked at this record or David M. Allen's work with The Cure as he's like the George Martin of The Cure, because things weren't exactly the same after he quit working with the band. He'd worked with them since The Top, for crying out loud. So we've got all that material in between there. It's just total greatness. But now we're going to go to the next record, which has no David M. Allen. We're going to go to Wild Mood Swings.
I think that was I think that pretty much coincides with David M. Allen slowing down his workflow.
Is that what happened?
I don't know whether that's just
the
a coincidence or what, or if maybe he didn't get as many jobs after that, after he didn't do The Cure anymore.
I don't know. I've never read anything.
He starts to
about
drop off right about that time.
I thought his work with Robert Smith is brilliant. He
Yeah.
was the producer for the band. But when we get to Wild Mood Swings, things change a little bit. This album's, much more of a collection of songs than which is on Wish. So Wild Mood Swings is the 10th studio album by The Cure, released on May 7th, 1996 on Fiction. So the producer here is not David M. Allen, it's Steve Lyon. I'm not sure who Steve is. Maybe you gentlemen know. I'm not familiar with his work at all. But this album charted at #9 on the UK album charts, and it charted at #12 on the US Billboard 200. They released 4 singles from this album: the 13th, Mint Car, Strange Attraction, and Gone. The reviews on this record were a bit mixed. AllMusic gave it 3 stars. The Guardian gave it 2. Rolling Stone gave it 2. I mean, not very good. But anyway, I'm going to throw it over to Reed Little. Reed, how do you look at this record, and what are your 2 favorite tracks from this release?
All right. So Wild Mood Swings currently holds pride of place as my least favorite Cure album, which isn't to say that there aren't things that I like about it. There are some things I like about it, but it is literally the last Cure album I reach for when I'm in the mood to listen to The Cure. And yes, that means I listen to Blood Flowers, The Cure, and 413 Dream way more than I listen to Wild Mood Swings. In that I listen to them at all, and I never listen to Wild Mood Swings. So kind of had to dust it off and try and find 2 tracks. And this is one of those points, if I'm correct, just off the top of my head, it was either 3 or 4 years after Wish came out, right?
Yeah.
That Wild Mood Swings comes out.
96.
So this is one of Robert Smith's blow up his career moments, where he suddenly finds himself a pop star selling out arenas in the United States. And he goes, whoa, I never wanted to be that successful. And I always think, man, what kind of psychosis makes people go, oh, I never wanted to be successful? You hear this especially from British bands all the time. Oh, we never wanted to be huge. Like, well, why not? Why'd you start making music if you don't want people to listen to it, right? I mean, because that's what it really means. If you're huge, it means that people are listening to your music.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, they come out with a collection of songs. I find this album pretty hard to get through most of the time. I don't think the songs hold together very well. They're missing some spark. But Robert Smith can still write a good track once in a while. So my two favorite songs are the opening track, Want, which I'm about now. I've never done any research on this album because I like it so little that I just never bothered. But Want feels to me like a holdover from Wish. Like he had that pretty much done for the other record and they just didn't put it on for whatever reason. I have no idea if that's true or not, but it's definitely the most like Disintegration / Wish level Cure on the album. And then I'm also going to pick Jupiter Crash. So Jupiter Crash, oh, I don't have a lot to say about Want. I'm just going to leave it there. It's the most like 4 other Cure songs. Jupiter Crash is a boring song. It has this really pedestrian music to it. It's very low energy, but I love the lyrics. So Robert Smith returns to the sea. I don't know why the man is so obsessed with the sea. Sometimes he uses it as a metaphor. Sometimes he uses it just as a location or as window dressing, but he goes to the sea over and over again across all of the Cure albums. So here he is talking about meeting his lover by the sea, and they're talking about the stars and Jupiter. And what I get out of this song is that they have a very brief and unsatisfactory sexual encounter and she leaves him. Now, I'm sure that there are other interpretations. That's just kind of the surface one. And this is kind of classic Robert Smith. He always, and many times on the exact same album, he would write these wonderful songs about eternal love, and then he would write these really conflicted songs about how fleeting love was. This is why I'm saying therapy. Maybe if the man had had therapy, we would never have gotten Wild Mood Swings, right?
Well,
but I think it's a fun lyric, and I like at the end, he's got the comet flies too close to Jupiter and disappears a little too quickly, if you know what I'm saying. And then as his lover goes, well, was that the Jupiter show? I was expecting more, to be honest, and leaves. And he's like, well, so much for gravity. It's kind of clever. It's not super deep, unless there are layers and layers of meaning to the song that I just am not bothering exploring. But it's clever and entertaining, which the music is not. But the Cure is always 70% lyrics. If you don't get into the lyrics, you're just missing out most of the experience.
Todd Evans.
Okay.
Throw it over to you.
So Wild Mood Swings. I actually really like Wild Mood Swings, not as much as Wish, obviously, but I think that Wild Mood Swings is wildly inconsistent. I think when it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, like Club America, it's really bad. And I think Club America is the absolute worst Cure song ever, and it's right there in the number 2 spot. So it's hard to get past it. But there are some songs that I didn't pick that I like. I like the 13th. I like Mint Car. I like Gone. I like Round and Round and Round. I feel like once you get past Gone, it's got something that I absolutely love. One-word titles. I love one-word titles. But after Gone, you've got Numb, Return, Trap, Treasure, and Bear. And all of them are pretty good. None of them stand out. So the album kind of loses me. And by the time I get to the end, I'm like, oh, is it still going? I mean, and none of those last 5 songs are bad. They just don't stand out. But with that said, and I'm a big Boris Williams fan. I think Boris Williams, the way he played the drums was perfect for the Cure. And it took me a long time to warm up to Jason Cooper. More on that in a minute. But my 2 songs, well, I don't want to give it away, but I will. They're exactly what Reed picked. Want, I think, is one of the best Cure songs. And what you said about maybe being left over from Wish, that might explain it. I think it's very much like the kiss off of Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, and that Robert is just desperate and he's just screaming. And
Mhm.
I love that. I love the really long opening. It takes a really long time to get going. And but I think it builds a lot of tension, and I love that. But these lines right here, I want the sky to fall in. I want lightning and thunder. I want blood instead of rain. I want the world to make me wonder. I want to walk on water, take a trip to the moon. Give me all this and give me it soon. I just think that that's great. And the way he says it is so desperate. And
Mhm.
I think, Grant, and you and I have talked about this before, but when this album came out and we heard that first song, I think we both had the same thought. Holy
Yeah.
crap, this is going to be a good Cure album.
Oh my God. Yep. That's what I thought.
I hope I didn't take that away from your presentation that's
No,
coming
no,
up,
no,
but
no,
but
no. It's all good.
but I think Want is really spectacular, and uh, my second choice is Jupiter Crash, and one of the things that I love about Jupiter Crash is I absolutely love the way Jason Cooper, and I had to check because he doesn't play all the drums on all these songs. There's a couple of session guys that play on some of them, but he does play on the two that I picked. And Jupiter Crash, just what he plays, just think is perfect. I think it's really inventive. I
Mhm.
like to make fun of Jason Cooper a little bit because there's too many cymbals. I'm like, this isn't Led Zeppelin. Stop hitting so many cymbals. But make some
Well,
space. Your songs are supposed to have space.
mhm.
But I think he plays Jupiter Crash absolutely brilliant. I can't say anything more about the lyrics, but I interpreted them exactly the same way as Reed did, and I think they're incredibly charming. And I think Jupiter Crash is a great song. So that's
Excellent.
my second choice.
Super. Well, you didn't take anything away from me, but I will chime in. I think this record, we do miss David M. Allen on here. I think this is the last Cure album where they aren't trying to sound like the Cure. That makes sense. It's kind of like, I don't know. Blood Flowers, I always listen to that. And I mean, there are a lot of people that love Blood Flowers, but it always seems like they're always trying to sound like the Cure.
And I'm going to continue disagreeing with you, but
Okay, I know
there
we
you
go
go.
back and forth. I can hardly wait to get to Blood Flowers, for God's sakes.
I'm with Todd on this one, but we'll save that for another show.
Okay. All right. But what I'm trying to say, this
But
album,
that's a good conversation starter. I mean, I'm not taking that away from you. That's
right. But this record, even though I heard Want, and that's my choice, the more you listen to this record, the more it takes hold. It's not instantly accessible like Disintegration or Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me or Wish.
it was hard to learn.
It's hard to
Yeah.
learn. Well put. But I'm going to go out on a limb. Even though this record's a little bit schizophrenic, so to speak, Want is like one of my all-time favorite Cure songs. What a way to start a record. I mean, like you said, Todd, we listen to that and it's like going, holy crap, this is going to be great. It's almost like Disintegration Part 2. It's like a continuation, but we don't get that.
We
I
get Club
think
America.
we get Club America, and I think that's what lets Cure fans down. They want more Disintegration. They get a little bit of it on Wish. I mean, there are glimmers of Disintegration on there, but we get Want, and we have that, and it's absolutely brilliant. The only thing that's different about Want compared to anything else is that the vocals are mixed a lot higher on this record. David M. Allen would have had everybody way much more subdued, and Robert, this is one of the problems. I know I'm going on it's 6:45. We're good. I know I'm going on a tangent, but this is one of the problems I have with it is that Robert Smith's vocals are way too up in the mix. We'd love to hear Robert, but I think he needs to be lower in the mix on this record.
I never really thought about that, but I think that's a good point.
Yeah, it is a
I think
good
I know what
point.
you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you just kind of want to hear him. You want to hear him blend with the instrumentation. But here it's like, hey, it's Robert Smith, and here I am, which is okay. Want, though, is absolutely brilliant. I can't build on anything more than what Reed and Todd said. It's a brilliant opener, but my second track I'm going with is This Is a Lie, which is one of the most somber songs on Wild Mood Swings.
I almost picked that.
And, you know, it talks about actually, this is the only song that his wife ever questioned the lyrics about, because, you know, he describes life as a lie. You sing about every love relationship is a lie. It's kind of complex. It's very beautiful. And I think the strings on this song are just absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. This could have been on Disintegration as well. Like I said, you still get glimmers of what came before. I think it's a beautiful track. It's my second favorite on the whole record. I don't know if I have much more to say about it. I just think it's just damn near perfect. But I think if you can dive into Wild Mood Swings, I think it has a lot to offer. You just have to dive into it and really take it all in.
I do want to say this though. I don't hate the cover. I like the color of it. I like the logo. But what the hell is that?
That's a
What is
blop.
that?
Yeah.
That's a blop.
I think that The Cure are semi-notorious for having some of the worst album covers out there. I mean, maybe that means something
this
to
is pretty
somebody.
nice.
Is it?
That's an egg, and I think those are sperm. I'm not sure.
It's
Maybe.
okay. Somebody from the band designed that. Hang on. I'm a little embarrassed that I can't.
I mean,
keep going.
No, I don't hate it, but I don't look at it and go, you know, it's not like Roger Dean's work with Yes, or it's not, you know, it doesn't hold in the mind. It's not an image that you look at and go, I'm just going to think about that for a bit.
I'm going to counteract that, because if you look at Yes, The Quest, you bring up Roger Dean. I mean, the artwork's on here is okay, but
I would much rather look at that than the cover of Wish. If you had like a poster of that on your wall, people would go, man, I mean, it's a little lacking in movement, but fine. If you had a poster of Wish, people would just go, geez, this guy really likes The Cure.
I think what drives me crazy about this, I know we're on a tangent, is that Yes logo, which looks like stained glass.
Yeah, admittedly, the logo is a little bit over the top. Yeah.
But like I said, I think Wild Mood Swings has a lot to offer. You just have to sit down with it.
Man, Wild Mood Swings is one of those albums that when it's finished, I don't remember anything about it. Most of the Cure albums,
I think you just need to sit down with it more, Reed. I think maybe.
When I'm through with any other Cure album, there are parts of it that stand out. Wild Mood Swings, and perhaps it's because of that 1-2 sucker punch of fantastic song, terrible song, and then you're just, my engagement for the rest of the album is so low.
It scrambles your brain a bit.
And I think Smith does that intentionally, because he didn't want to be successful. And he's like, here, you think I'm an arena rock act? Check this out. Yeah. And people are like, oh, well, this is terrible.
Also, that's too many songs.
Well,
it's too long.
Don't forget, Todd, we're at that era where everybody jams pack songs onto it.
74 minutes. Cram everything on there.
But this works.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was the last hurrah. That was her peak. Well, yeah, this is right up there. But I think Disintegration's the peak, and then we start going down. I mean, we only can do it. Everybody has a lifespan. You can't churn out top quality stuff all the time unless you're XTC, and not everybody's XTC.
Right. Well, you know, there's that sad thing where your fans want every album to be the same but different, right? That's the line that's often used. That's definitely what your record company wants, especially if your record's successful. They want the next record to be just like that, only slightly different, so that people will buy it. But anybody, and I mean anybody, not just Robert Smith. Robert Smith is clearly a man who has had some peaks and valleys in his mental well-being as he goes through his career. But any human being is not going to be the same 20 years down the road. And to me, it's like Al Bundy talking about high school football for the rest of his life, right? If you can go in 20 years later and make an album that's exactly like the album you made 20 years ago, you haven't changed as a human being. And how sad is that?
Yeah.
Well put. Yeah, there you go. All right, kids. Well, there you go. There's our synopsis of these three albums: Disintegration, Wish, and Wild Mood Swings. So we will be doing yet another episode where we look at our top 2 tracks. I'm not sure when we're going to get this scheduled. It'll probably be in January. But I want to thank Reed Little and Todd Evans for joining me tonight. Is there anything going on that you want to promote real quick before we sign off?
Nope.
I just did on Rush Bands. I just
There you
did
go.
the Rush Roundtable for Prime Mover
Mhm.
from the Hold Your Fire album, and Ryan Murphy introduced my beard as the special guest. So
Well,
that was
it
kind of
is
fun.
special.
It's quite the beard.
But
We
it
had a good
is,
time.
you're looking good though. I'll give you
Thanks.
that. Because I got to see it when it was just starting to come in, Reed. I saw it in its infancy. And now, well, it's really grown up. You know what I mean? All right,
Well,
boys. Well, we'll leave it there. I want to thank both of you guys for coming on. And please like, subscribe, you know, the whole thing. And I never mentioned this, but I also have a Facebook link below, and I actually got my Twitter going. So subscribe to both. And when we do, and when
just
we
in time for the implosion.
just in time for the implosion. No, I actually heard a thing that Twitter actually now is bigger than ever right now.
well,
As far
Yeah, that-
as it's just like going off the rails. As far
Yeah,
as
Yeah, I'm not sure that's true, but
no, that's what I heard. I don't know. How do I know? But you know, at least we don't have any, we're getting rid of the bots. So that's good. So anyway, I do have a Twitter below, so you can check that out. No one looks at that, you know, but anyway.
I do.
So you do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Todd. I appreciate that.
I don't.
Reed doesn't, but someone please go and look at it. All right. I want to wish you guys good night, and thanks again. We'll do this again.
All right. Thanks, Grant.
All right.
Thanks,
It's been
Grant.
fun.